And we're back to HTML SVG. Let me show you how you can add a blur to your SVG objects. It all starts again with an SVG canvas, and inside we'll add our defs, and below the object I'll make it a rectangle with height. Give it a stroke, a fill. And we also want to link the filter. We haven't yet created it, so we leave the URL empty. And I'll reposition this a little bit to right and bottom. But now we've got our setup. Let us jump to our filter. We're going to use a Gaussian blur. So that needs to be nested inside of filters. And we want to connect the filter to our rectangle. So let me add an ID. It's a blur, but usually you want to add something like filter 1, filter 2. And then add it right here with the hashtag sign, so it's an ID selector. And now we'll add FE Gaussian blur. By default, the in attribute is set to source graphic. This simply means that it's going to be applied to the entire object. And the STD deviation, it's basically the attribute that's needed to adjust the intensity of the blur. It's already connected. Let me increase it, and you can see the blur gets more and more extreme the higher this number goes. At some point you're going to see the borders very clearly. Let's say here at 20. And the borders are defined by width and height of our object. In this case it's a rectangle. You don't necessarily have to have a stroke, so let me just cut it out. Again, at some point, here it's 15, we can see the borders again, defined by width and height. Keep that in mind when you adjust the STD deviation. And if I cut out the source graphic, nothing is going to change. As I've said, that's the default state. Still not a bad idea to put it in there. There's also an option to reposition the filter using X and Y. But if you want to have your blur in center of your object, I wouldn't want to mess with this. For example, here 0, 0, it cuts into the blur. Top left would be 0, 0 position. Let me show you, for example, if I use like 50%, it's going to get rid of half of the object. So right here width was 100, therefore 50 pixels are cut off. 90 would take 90 away. And even with 10% you can see the cutoff. Let me get rid of this, and we've got our blur perfectly in center, and it feathers out naturally. On this, I can apply a blur to any object in HTML SVG. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.